And we are back. What is up, everyone? This is Alex Safey. We're here with my brother John, bringing you another episode of Double Take with the Safey Bros. John, what's going on, bro?
Double Take's back. We wanted to get a playoff episode out, and things have just been busy lately,
That's
right.
right.
We finished up our semester. We moved out of Boston. We're back home in Miami. We were hoping the Heat were going to get to a spot where they would get to the 4 seed. We could watch game 1 or 2 before we leave for the summer, but unfortunately, we probably won't. We're leaving Thursday. We probably won't be able to see game 3 in Miami versus Milwaukee.
Don't even get me started on that, John.
Before we get to the Miami Heat and how we're going to beat the Bucks again this year, we're going to let's talk a bit about the play-in, Alex, or do you want to tease the rest of the episode first?
Well, yeah, so we got to talk about that plan between, LeBron and Steph, and of course on the other side, the East, not as interesting matchups. Then we are going to give our picks for each series in the East and the West and who will be winning each conference. Of course, we're going to give our finals picks too. Then we will talk about some of the awards. And that'll wrap up the show. But as I said, let's get started with the plan, John. Just pretty simple question. Was the NBA plan that LeBron said the man who invented it should be fired and other people have trashed the plan idea, was the plan a success or a failure?
Yeah, not only was it a success, and I think everyone agrees on it. There's nobody that disagrees about the plan not being a success, but it was fun to see all the different people's ideas about it. Like when Mark Cuban and Luka, and the Dallas Mavericks were critical of it because they were the 7 seed. And I said this on the show on our last episode. I think I was like, Luka, don't complain. Get to this top 6 seed. If you can't be a top 6 seed, then you're gonna have to get the play-in, and then you need to beat the Memphis Grizzlies or the San Antonio Spurs, right? Like, come on, and then with LeBron too. LeBron, of course, didn't. He was sitting fat and happy at the top of the standings, and then they got injured. They made it down to the 7th seed, and that's when LeBron said the person who came up with that needs to be fired. Like, so it was just super fun to watch that reaction from the players. It was just so clearly like, oh, you're the 7th seed, and now you realize, you're a playoff. You can be knocked out with 2 games and a small sample size like that. But then of course it was just super entertaining. Like we look at it, the 7 and the 8 seed are probably gonna make it in each conference, so it didn't really change much, but it was still super entertaining and it brought value to the league.
I think the funniest part about that was that the people pulled up a clip from LeBron a year ago. I think it would have been right before the bubble, maybe, saying, "Yeah, I support the plan." So it's like it is very hypocritical, you could say.
Yeah.
Now you're in the plan, you don't want to play it.
Yeah.
But when you think of it, I think the reason it was like that this year, well, you can see 2 sides of it. The Lakers get screwed. They were at the top of the West. They get screwed. Injuries, COVID, whatever else. Now they're at the 7th seed. Now they're looking at, basically losing 1 game, and now you're out of the playoffs. On the other hand,
well, 2 games if you're the 7th seed.
Yeah, you have to lose. Oh, you're right. You have to lose 2 games. My bad.
Yeah.
Lose 2 games, you're out of the playoffs. You look at the other hand, the Wizards started this season, and they had a span of time where they missed like 4 or 5 games in a row, missed like multiple weeks, could not practice. Started the season 17-32, completely ravaged by COVID. On April 6th, John, they were 15 games below 500, and according to like the ESPN BPI, whatever that thing is, I think at the beginning of April they had like a 0.6% chance to make the playoffs or play in. I think the playoffs.
Super low.
So it's like, they had very little chance. That's a team that usually
they still got to the 8 seed though. Still,
yes, but my point is this, John. That's a team that, all right, Brad Beal, you're hurt, put you on the bench. Westbrook, whatever, you can do your thing, doesn't really matter, and then we're gonna go for the lottery.
Yeah.
Instead, this is a team that was very motivated. We can make it, and they did get to the 8th seed. But I think if they weren't even trying, we're in the 10th seed, whatever,
all they had to
do it. So,
all they had to do was get to the 10th seed. Yeah. So you're definitely right, and it does.
And now they're in the playoffs.
Eliminate. And Ryan Russillo on the Bill Simmons podcast, he kind of debunked the whole removed tanking this year because he kind of discussed why each of the teams towards the bottom, they really didn't have an option to tank, which he did. He made a convincing argument.
He didn't have an option.
He went team by team, like. The Pelicans with Zion weren't going to, throw it away. The Grizzlies, the Kings didn't, they had stuff to play for. Like, basically talk about the only teams that were really going to had a real reason to tank were, OKC, Houston. But, I think his point was right maybe for this year, but for years to come, the plan will always be something where it's like, I mean, people have been critical of the NBA. 16 teams, more than 50% of the league, make it to the playoffs. Right. Whereas in baseball, in football, it's not like that. But we expanded it even more. Now it's 20 teams are in the playoffs of the sort.
But we're not calling the play in the playoff, I guess.
But I was thinking how far could you extend this out? Like, why doesn't the 14 play the 15 for the shot to play the 13 winner of the 32, then the loser of the 13 versus 12, and then you could just keep going up. But of course, I mean, it adds the March Madness aspect to it. But now let's talk about the game itself, Alex.
Well, yeah,
LeBron versus Steph. I mean, this was definitely the one main headliner game. Is why it was like the last one. We watched all the other ones first, and this one was easily the best. The Grizzlies Spurs game was still that was fun. There was a big 20-point comeback.
20 in the first quarter. And
made a comeback, but LeBron versus Steph, I mean, it did not disappoint. It was just as advertised, right?
And here's what I'll say. I think something that, this has been talked about a lot, I think, especially last year after that game 1 of the Lakers versus Portland where they lost, is like, LeBron used the first game as like a kind of a feeling it out game. And something I've been tweeting about was like, I think they should not even care about the play-in game. If you don't even want to do the play-in game, tank the play-in game. That way you can play the Jazz. Because I personally think they have a better shot against the Jazz than the Suns.
I disagree with.
Yeah, maybe that's not true, whatever. But of course, everyone, showed up, they played, and it was... You never see that in the NBA, a single elimination game, which is why I was like, all right, LeBron can't really feel this one out. But guess what? The first half, him, Davis, and Schroeder, and you can talk about being...
They were horrible.
They were just...
They were 4 for 28 in the first half.
Exactly. You can say, they were rusty or whatever. Maybe they weren't taking it seriously. But they really did play extremely poorly. I'm like, this is kind of funny. You think, like, LeBron, elimination game. Like, he's going to come up. And guess what? The second half, or actually, not even, the fourth quarter is when Davis and LeBron really... Because you go back and look at their stat line, LeBron ended up being 7 for 17. For his standards, that's not good. But that's not, like, as abysmal as it looked in the first half. Davis finished 10 for 24. Not terrible either. Schroeder actually did finish pretty poorly. Yeah. But overall, like, LeBron's with a triple-double. Right. Only 1 turnover in the game. Steph had like 5 or 6 turnovers. Six turnovers. And LeBron, of course, this is the biggest, thing is it's 100-100. They come down, broken play, tosses it into KCP. KCP has nothing. Right back out to LeBron. And here's the thing that I want to say about this shot that I haven't heard anyone talk about. When you shoot a shot, when you catch a ball, you step into it. When you see any great shooter, Duncan Robinson, Kyle Korver, Rayon, whoever, even Steph, you're stepping into the shot. If you're stepping back, usually you're dribbling it. This is where LeBron, he catches the ball, and he steps his left foot back to be even with his right foot. So he caught the ball, took a step back, kind of. It wasn't like a full step back like see. But he just kind of pivots his left foot back and then shoots it. That's hard to do. And obviously the range is incredible.
that's LeBron. I've seen him take that in not the shot as far. I mean, he does in one.
Oh no, he does. I mean, even
I'm saying where he moves that foot back and he launches.
And that's what I was most impressed by with that shot. Obviously, the range is ridiculous.
Just how far it is.
Yeah, ridiculous. And it was like, I think this is something that Nick Wright said, because everyone's talking about, was it a lucky shot? And I think like Stephen A said it was a lucky shot, and other people
Skip
were saying
Bayless
it's
said
not. I'm sure
Skip is like LeBron's not clutch. He's just good when he can't make a decision. He just has to heave it up.
Well, there's 2 things I want to say. One, the shot was right. It went right down. It wasn't Kawhi's, bounce. This is what Nick Wright was saying. It didn't bounce a million times. It didn't bank it in like we've seen, Paul Pierce or whoever else in other times. Derrick Rose, I think. It was pretty much nothing but net. And then on the other hand, I will say what Skip Bayless does maybe have a point is it's much easier to be clutch when it's a tie game. You miss a shot, no one's going to remember, LeBron missed a shot to go ahead.
They go to overtime, right?
Unless Steph comes down, because that was a minute left. Unless Steph comes down and hits a shot.
True.
But if the game is even, you shoot a shot, you don't have that much to lose. Whereas if you're down, then you have to hit a shot. That is obviously more close. Yeah. So that is one thing that I will give Skip Bayless credit for, although I hate doing that.
And then my last thing is just, I think, Alex, we were both wrong. We kind of thought Lakers much better team than the Warriors. In reality, when they're all healthy together, they're a 1 or a 2 seed. The Warriors, as currently constructed, are their 8, 9, 10 seed. It's going to be lopsided, we thought, which we were wrong for accounting for the switch that the Lakers had. We thought they'd just flip it and be back, but we should have understood the rust that was coming with their injuries. They hadn't played together, and AD looked so bad.
It was like night and day versus him in the finals and like the Western Conference Finals where he wasn't missing, and then today.
No, and as someone that bet on the Lakers, that was the hard part to watch. And of course they're down. I don't know, it was 10 or 12 or 13 at halftime. And our friend Max, he's a wise sports bettor. He said, this is the lock of the game. Wait till the Lakers go down, and then you hit them when the money line's hot. Which it got to plus 210. It was
like 240. I tried to get it at 240. I missed it. I got it at 210. But it's funny because I don't think Max ended up betting them. He was like, screw the Lakers. I'm not betting on them when that happened.
If he listened to himself before the game, he would have been right. But I mean, for the people that, if they had heard his advice before, you wait. Now the Lakers, because they were big favorites before the game. Now midway through the game, they're down 13. Now you bet $10, you win $20 basically.
Instead of betting,
that was a smart bet.
Yeah, you have to bet like 25 to win 10.
All right, so obviously we got Warriors Grizzlies. Probably gonna be Warriors. I'm picking Warriors.
I'm definitely picking Warriors.
Yeah, I think that's a simple game. They already won the other day. But Alex, let's move along. Let's talk about the East first. Let's go through, what we think the best, series are in the Eastern Conference, the closest matchups, what our picks are for each series, and then we'll end with what our pick to get out of the Eastern Conferences are. So, Alex, off the bat, what's the number one series you're looking at in the East?
It's definitely not Nets Celtics. Because obviously the other I'm pretty intrigued by. I think it's pretty no-brainer though, John. I think we have the same one for this one. It's got to be Bucks Miami.
All right, it's the heat wave. Let's get to it.
We're looking at the rematch versus last year. A lot at stake. I mean, for the Heat, actually, if we lose to the Bucks, we're gonna be disappointed with this season. But at the end of the day, we're losing to the better player, the better seed, the better team. The Bucks, actually, there's much more pressure on the Bucks.
Oh, no doubt.
They lost to us last year. They also are coming off of they went up 2-0 and then lost 4 straight in the 2019 conference finals. And then last year, they don't even make it to the conference finals. This year, this is the first round. So that would be quite literally taking a step back each year.
Oof.
And not only that, John, but losing to the team that you just lost to. They asked Giannis the other day, I think it was yesterday, what's going to be different this year, between this year and last year. He's wearing a shirt that says, be better, be different. And what does he say, John? He says, to be honest with you, I'm not going to lie. I can't tell you, I don't know if it's going to be different.
Which I defended, when we were talking about this yesterday, Alex, I defended him a little bit because, he can say, we're going to get the job done, we're going to win. But, his description after was, I don't try and get too high, I don't try and get too low, stay in the middle. Maybe that's what happened last year in the bubble, whatever. So he's making excuses, which that was stupid.
It's not even excuses.
But I just think, he's saying, listen, we're going to go out there, we're going to give it our all. I don't really care about giving you guys a quote for the thing, which he ended up doing. He gave them a quote for the article or whatever.
Quote, and I think he should have at least said, to be honest with you, I don't know if it's going to be different, but I'm very confident in my team and our chances and our improvement from that. He should have said something like that.
Yeah, okay, that's better.
If you want to do
but at the same time, Dirk was on the Bill Simmons podcast the other day, and he talked about being a guy who kind of off the court was very, laid back, relaxed, composed. I think Giannis is being similar. On the court, they're fired up, but off the court, he's like, hey, we're going to do it. And Jimmy's different.
Jimmy's the opposite.
Jimmy's the number one dude who's up in your face on the quotes. He's the guy who said, we're going to get in the playoffs. We won't be in the play-in. We're going to win. We're going to do... he's the one who said that, who says that type of stuff. And... I mean, there's the picture of him yesterday of his arm just looking absolutely yoked.
Vast.
Yeah, went viral, and so now all the Miami Heat Twitter is just going crazy, which is my favorite time of the year during the playoffs.
Jimmy and Bam was snubbed for Defensive Player of the Year, wasn't even top 3.
Which again, I know
that's
Alex,
in our favor. That works in our favor.
You came to me right away. You're like, yo, did you see Bam? I'm like, good. I don't care about the individual award. Bring it on, and. It would have been nice to play the Hawks or the Knicks first round and to have home court and to probably beat one of those. We're definitely more talented than those two teams. To beat them at full strength and then to go on to play the Sixers, who we just pumped the other night towards the end of the regular season, and they had something to play for. They were trying to lock up the 1 seed. We pumped them. It would have been nice to play those two in the first 2 rounds and then get the Bucks or the Nets in the conference finals. But this, honestly, I can't be that disappointed. We were pretty bad all year. To get the Bucks again, is extremely excited. And I remember back in September being we were playing we knew all that whole year long that we had that team's number. We knew it. We had the Giannis stopper and Bam and the way we played our defense. They just
crushed us the other day, 2 weeks ago.
But Jimmy hasn't been playing though.
Did he play that game?
Jimmy didn't play in any of them. You didn't see that? There was
I didn't watch that game.
It was on Heat Twitter. There was a tweet that said, it showed, Heat's record versus all the top 3 teams, Sixers, Nets, and the Bucks. And it was Jimmy didn't play, and we lost all of them. The one game Jimmy did play was against the Sixers the other night, and how great did he look that night? Yeah. Not a huge stat line. It was a classic Jimmy game. He controlled the game offensively and defensively, but he didn't have a huge stat line or anything. And he got others involved. Everyone was shooting lights out, and that's what the Heat need to do against the Bucks. And that's what I'm saying. Listen, if we lose, like you said, okay, they got Jrue Holiday, they got the back-to-back MVP in Giannis, and he's gonna be an all-time great dude. when his career finishes, and this will just be one of the teams he lost to. That sucks. We beat him last year. This year though, if we beat him again,
the funny
we
thing
own
too, John,
them.
is like,
and one more thing, I ask. That's the number one team I'm looking at. Like, you could look at any team in the entire playoffs. Maybe the Clippers, have them beat for this.
Two.
Those are the two teams that it's most devastating to lose in the first round. Because if we lose, even if the Nets, I mean, they're not gonna. We don't really count them. But even if the Nets somehow did, it'd be because of an injury or something. There'd be some better excuse.
Yeah.
Like you said, Alex.
And it's their first year
Conference
together.
finals, they lost to the Raptors, that 1 seed. Then they were the 1 seed last year, lost in the conference semis. And then this year to lose in the first round to the Heat again.
The team that you
Jimmy
already
Butler,
lost to.
they would have to end their franchise if they lost to us again.
Yeah, it'd be devastating, especially for Giannis, who just signed that huge extension with them, which you didn't have to do. You could have waited to free agency, test the waters, and then come to Miami. He didn't do that. He's like, nah, I'm locking myself
or
in.
Dallas or wherever else. He could have left, but he locked himself up.
You know what? I guess the good thing is too is like where other years you've had teams not fully knowing, like, oh, I don't know if you're out the door, Giannis. Like, they know Giannis is here. Like, Giannis is here to stay. He's like, he's not waiting for, can I go to Miami? Can I go here? Can I go there? So maybe that's better for their team chemistry. I don't know. But on the Heat side of things, there's one thing I did want to say, John. Right now in the standings, we are only 1 game behind both the Hawks and the Knicks. And this is why I'm upset. Because a month ago, on April 23rd, this is one of the games. The Heat, we've had an on and off year. A lot of it's been health. I'll blame health for a lot of the reasons.
And COVID.
And whatever. But this is a game in which Bam played 36 minutes. Jimmy played 37 minutes. We played the Atlanta Hawks without Trae Young. And we lose by 15 points in Atlanta. If we win that game, guess what? Now I think we're 2-1 versus the Hawks. And we're already 3-0 against the Knicks. And now we have a 3-4 seed. We easily we would have had the 4 seed.
We lost.
And then what? And then I think we play maybe the Knicks, which I'd much rather play a team that we're 3-0
the
against.
Knicks. The Knicks and the Hawks were tied their record.
Right now the Knicks have the 4, so
because they won the tiebreaker between the Hawks and the Knicks.
So it's a 3-way.
But what I'm saying is, if we beat the Hawks wouldn't have been tied.
Okay,
we would have been above.
True. So we would have played
the
the
Knicks.
Knicks,
The 4 seed.
Which guess what? Knicks, and then you're right, Sixers in the second round, who's a team I feel much more confident against than, honestly, to be honest, the Nets or the Bucks. I actually would rather play the Sixers even though the first.
Yeah, the Bucks just have all the hunger. They got Drew Holiday, but they got PJ Tucker.
Yeah, why don't we let's move on, John. What there's Sixers, Wizards. What are we thinking about?
So
that? We got Embiid, Russ.
I'll say. I mean, we can skip. I think Sixers and Nets. Do you have that game going past either of those series going past 5 games? No. It should be 5-game series for the Sixers and the Nets.
I would say 4.
I'm sorry.
4.
Yeah.
Maybe Tatum gets 1.
Yeah, I would say that probably. I would say 4-0 for probably each. Maybe Russ and Beal can play well and get one off the Sixers. Knicks Hawks, what a hilarious first round series. It's like it's a classic. I think 4-5.
We actually didn't pick Bucks Heat though.
Oh, okay. Well, Bucks
we didn't
Heat.
do that.
I think I kind of alluded to this. I mean, yeah, I teased at the beginning of the show. We're gonna say why the Heat are gonna win. The Heat can win, yeah. But now, I'm gonna pick. Just looking at like the trajectory of basketball history. I think this is Giannis's. This is his bad boy Pistons MJ moment. He couldn't get over the hump the past 2 years. Yeah. This is it. And I don't think he's gonna like shoot well. I think Bam's gonna do his thing. We don't have Jay Crowder this year. That's different. Ariza's not him. And I think, maybe having Oladipo would have made us a little bit better equipped, but we're about the same. If Hero and Duncan get it going and Jimmy's going to be Jimmy, Bam's going to be Bam, I just think Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton are going to rise and be that number 2 guy. They're going to together.
No, that's a 2 and a 3. It's a legitimate 2 and a 3, John.
I think they combine to be Giannis is the sidekick that we've said Giannis needs. So I think the Bucks are going to get it done. 6 or 7. If I had gun to my head, 6. If I'm being a Heat fan, it's 7.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. And given that the Bucks are my pick to make it out of the East, I'm gonna have to go Bucks in 6. Breaks my heart. But also, I just need to say this for the record. I also haven't been picking the Heat because I don't want to jinx my team. Anyway, I do think that the biggest difference here is Drew Holiday. They didn't have Drew Holiday last year. I really think Eric Bledsoe to Drew Holiday is a huge upgrade because guess what? There were times where it was like, it didn't even look like Eric Bledsoe should have been a guy in your closing 5 lineup.
I forgot.
That is not going to be the case with Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, there are going to be times where he's either A, going to be clearly the second best player on the Bucks, and some nights be like, all right, he's the guy tonight.
Yeah.
He's going to win the game for us. So I think Drew Holiday's a massive upgrade, and that really is the difference. And it's going to come down to, I kind of agree with you, how well are they going to be able to shut off Duncan, and what kind of Tyler Hero are we getting in this series?
Yeah.
So those are going to be the X factors.
Yeah. All right. So Knicks Hawks. I don't think there's much to say. As much to say. I think it's a super funny series. This is the Screw You Eli Maluhi series because our friend Eli, who's been on the show a bunch, he hates both these teams. So it's fun. Either way, he loses.
Yeah.
So go Knicks and go Hawks. But who do you have? I think it's gonna be 6. I think it's gonna be 7-gamer probably.
No, I disagree.
Okay. Who do you think is that much better?
Knicks in 6. And I wouldn't be
The
shocked.
Hawks are just more talented.
This sounds crazy.
Though,
I wouldn't be shocked if the Knicks beat them in 5. I know that's crazy to say. I just trust the fact that they're
they were 3-0 in the regular season.
Were they? So they never lost.
The Knicks swept.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Season.
But between their brand of basketball, the way Tom Thibodeau's had them, they're a very, obviously defense-oriented team, but they're like a nasty team. They're a tough team. And the Hawks, on the other hand, you look at Trae Young, they're going to hunt Trae Young. And not that they have some good. Derrick Rose he's right now 6th Man of the Year candidate. He's been a spark plug off the bench. Emmanuel quickly can get buckets. So you have some guards who can score. And Trae Young is arguably the worst individual defender in basketball. I think that's going to be huge. And they also can't really stop Julius Randle.
Yeah, I'll probably pick the Knicks in 7, winning it in Madison Square Garden. That'll be pretty electric.
Yeah, that would be
for Knicks fans. All right, so Alex, moving on. Who's winning the East? Who do you got? You said you had the Bucks.
I have the Bucks, and the Nets are obviously the obvious.
Yeah, hold on. We haven't even talked about the team with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden yet.
That's everyone's main pick. I know some people are zagging with Sixers or Bucks, but the reason I think it's going to be the Bucks, I kind of agree with you. I think it's Giannis's year. I think it's with a player that great, multiple MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year. I think they figured it out. I don't love Coach Bud. However, I really think Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, who he hasn't had a good playoffs yet, really, or to his standard. He's kind of choked the last 2 years, I would say, in the playoffs, other than the one game against us where he literally turned into Kobe Bryant. But I think those two guys, they're gonna, and Drew Holiday's good in the playoffs too. So I think that's gonna be a huge difference for them. And I think that the reason I don't like the Nets is I don't like teams that I think they have good chemistry, but I'm questioning because guess what? You've played those big 3 guys. You've only played 8 games together in total. And guess what? Defense wins championships, Sean. A lot of people say that they're going to win the finals. Here's why I don't think the Nets are going to win the finals. John, can you tell me, why don't you guess, the lowest defensive rating of an NBA championship?
Okay.
Not rating. It's not rating. The lowest, ranking.
Yeah.
Ranking. Of defense of the championship the last 10 years. Over the last 10 years, who's the lowest?
So was it the Kobe Shaq Lakers?
I said 10 years. So I didn't.
10 years.
I'm just looking back to 2010.
Oh, to 2010.
The worst defensive rating.
6?
No. It's 11.
Okay. I thought it was.
It's 11, which you look at it. It might be good news for the Nets because it was the Warriors that had Durant.
Okay. What, the 18 Warriors?
It was the 18 Warriors.
Yeah.
But after that, guess what ranking the Nets are?
But even
they're double that. They're 22nd.
Yeah.
So they're not good.
They would
defense.
be record, but that would be record breaking. Not for the past 10 years, ever.
I only did the past 10. But you look at, I'll just read off the other numbers: 3rd, 5th, 2nd, 10th, 1st, 4th, 9th, 4th, 8th, 3rd. Those are the last 10 years. The ranking of the team that has won the championship. So does that mean that the Nets can't make it to the finals? No, they actually still can make it to the finals, but I mean also banking off either their health not sustaining itself, or I do think that in a series against Milwaukee that they'll get knocked out.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I mean Milwaukee. I'll talk about why I can't pick them, and well no, I'll just say it right now. The reason is I just can't see a world in which that team is able to get past 3 straight rounds of the Miami Heat, who again we just talked about. We don't think that we're gonna win, but we're gonna give them a nice good punch in the mouth.
It's gonna be hard to beat us
before they go to face Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. Which listen, that won't be a physically taxing series, but it's gonna be a long one. I think.
Sure.
So if they somehow get past that one because Giannis puts up 40 a night because they have zero answer for him because they're putting Nick Claxton on him, then they're gonna face the Sixers, who are going to be rested up after sweeping through or gentlemen sweeping through. That's what I think. Probably 5-game series against the Wizards and against the Knicks. Embiid should not be, he shouldn't be busted up. Simmons should get some confidence under his belt, and they should be going into that season. They got, of course, Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, great role guys, and Doc Rivers, who should be hungry after blowing a million 3-1 leads in his career. They should be coming ready for that Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. So I'm happy to say, spoiler alert for the West, I'm picking the Lakers. I think you probably are too, Alex. I'm sticking with my. Well,
I don't know why you said.
I'm saying that because I'm sticking with my preseason pick, okay. Lakers over Sixers in the finals. So I got the Sixers going all the way. Again, I just think I'm trying to be safe, and I know a lot of people think being safe is like, dude, be safe. All right, don't bet against Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden, like 3 MVP level guys, like one of the best offensive rating ever. To me, I think the Sixers are safer. That might be shockingly, but I mean the defense is. Just look at like the
Their
season.
Path is much easier.
The path is much easier, but look at the season that the Nets had. I mean, like I think that they might look a little. They could look sloppy in this first round, being back together. Maybe they drop 1. Maybe they even drop 2 to Jason Tatum. If Tatum just feels like he's dropping 60, because they're not going to play that great defense. Like there'd probably be better perimeter defense on him than there will be against Giannis in the paint and Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in the paint. So the Nets, to me, I'm very shocked. Vegas has them as the number 1 because
I'm not.
So they really think so. As
John, you said it's just 3 guys. Yeah.
Okay, but to me that's an argument that's like, it's not. It's just like pointing to the easy argument, like, oh, they have better players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like A equals
it
B.
Is,
like
that's what it is sometimes.
No, because you know what? Okay, so you, Alex, realistically though, they're probably gonna have to go through the Bucks, or if not the Heat, the Bucks, the Sixers, and then the Lakers. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Giannis, and then Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. That's like 5 dudes who dominate in the paint, and they have 0 ways of stopping them. So is it really just like, no, they're just gonna outscore the hell out of everybody?
Here's the thing.
That would be one of the coolest championships ever if it happened. They're betting, most different, but I don't know.
They're betting that they can be the worst defensive team ever to win the championship. And guess what? If you're
I don't want to bet on that.
Because guess what? We've never seen a collection of offensive talent like this with Kyrie, Harden, and KD. We compare it to the Warriors. Defense of the Warriors. Klay Thompson isn't just getting a bucket.
Yeah, he's not.
He's a guy who, in that system, obviously, he's still very lethal.
I would push back.
He's one of the best shooters ever. I would argue he's easily top 5. Anyway, Harden. He's the. Or I guess if Harden's taking the Steph role, Kyrie's the 3rd guy. Guess what? Kyrie can break down any defense and get any shot that he wants. So,
okay, but that team, like we talk about how great they were offensively. They weren't just offense in a vacuum, though. They were good defensively as well. I know in 18 they weren't as much.
But guess what? They had Draymond Green. There's not one guy close to Draymond Green on any of this.
That's my point on the Nets. I'm saying the Nets don't have that, and I'm saying Klay, he was a bucket. He played I'm saying I would push back. He was a bucket. The difference with this team is Harden, Kyrie are both facilitators, and KD. They can all be facilitators, whereas Klay is not as much the creation type of guy. I don't know. I'm picking against them. Yeah, maybe we can end it there. I got Sixers. Listen, if they stay healthy and if they just shoot the lights out, they will be, the most different champion that we've ever seen, I think.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah,
all right, so moving on to the West.
Let's get to the West.
Best series, Alex. I think there's also...
Well, why don't you pick it?
I'll pick
the Bucks.
I think this one is pretty simple here. It's Lakers versus Suns, and... again, like I said, I'm picking the Lakers. It's tough because if the Lakers look how they did, if they don't get the rust out, like that's how they looked in the first half of the Warriors game. If they don't get that rust out, then I think that the Suns are a much better team than the Warriors. Yes, they don't have a guy like Steph Curry, but defensively they're top 10 defensively. The Warriors are also top 10 defensively, but Suns top 10 defense with Chris Paul. I think you look at the 2 teams, it's the Lakers, it's the Nets that everyone's picking. To me, the next team up would be Chris Paul having a 2011 Dirk type of year. They were kind of counted out. They had an older. I mean, Dirk wasn't as old as Chris Paul, but older star, just veteran dude. He had been there. He's lost a bunch of times, and for whatever reason, this year just clicked and it worked. And I think that's the only way they get past the Lakers. But it is an intriguing series because it's Chris Paul, because LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the other side. And if they're more rusty, then we're going to see the 2-seeded Suns do something. But, we could also see the Lakers just steamroll them. I'm going to pick that series in 6. But to me, that's the most intriguing series.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that. I'm most looking forward to that series in the West. But I'm just looking at all the other ones. And we're really going to see this year, more than ever, how much does the regular season matter? Because you look at it, if you look at that team, John, if in the beginning of the year I told you these are the matchups, you would not pick 2-7. If I showed you the Lakers roster and the Suns roster, you'd say that'll probably be like, it could be a 1-8, it could be a 2-7
but
the other
Lakers
way,
aren't a
it could be a
7
3-6.
That's the thing, they're a 7 seed, but they're really a 2 seed.
And that's my point.
It's 2 versus 2. This is a Western Conference Finals matchup,
But at the same time, the Suns and a team like the Jazz, I could have shown you Jazz Warriors or Jazz and another team, just showing you Jazz roster. You wouldn't pick the Jazz. You would not have guess.
Absolutely
they're the 1
not.
seed.
No.
So I think it's gonna come down to now. All right, well, how much does that regular season matter in the context of the playoffs and actually just looking at these teams on paper? Because the Jazz Warriors, I think the Jazz will handle the Warriors in probably 5 games. But the Suns Lakers, the Suns are the 2 seed. That should matter for something. But when I'm looking at the rosters, I want to be yeah, it's probably gonna be a 5-gamer.
Yeah, I think LeBron and AD, they steal one of the first 2, and then they have home court back, and I don't think they lose in LA. So maybe that's just how the series goes.
I think it'll be the same as last year. Versus Portland, where they lose game 1 and they win 4 straight. Okay. Or it did happen against Houston as well.
That happened against Houston as well.
That's what I think is gonna happen.
I'm also excited as the next best series. Just Luka in general. Pretty much any series he would be in. If he was playing versus the Jazz, or if him versus the Blazers would have been awesome, or even the Nuggets. I think him versus the Clippers again, it's probably his worst of those teams. It's the worst team that the Mavericks can be matched up with because they have Kawhi and Paul George, and now Rondo's running the offense and whatever. And they're going to look good, and hopefully they'll be much more hungry after how embarrassing they ended the season last year.
Paul George did say I'm in a much better headspace than last year, so they're already starting to say stuff like that.
So I do think that's probably a 5-gamer, unfortunately. But Luka's just maybe he'll win that 6th game like he did last.
Yeah, I think he will.
And made it a 6-game series.
I think he will, and if you could tell me right now, I can guarantee one team to win it the first series. Other than Miami, I'm picking the Mavericks just because I would love, and obviously we both love Luka. I would love, especially after last year, losing in 6 games and having that game winner, and not having Kristaps. Kristaps gets hurt, and then losing to the Clippers. I would really love for the Mavericks to come in this year, upset the Clippers, and make Kawhi even question why he's there.
Yeah.
Honestly, he's a free agent this year, so who knows?
No, and you know what? My Western Conference Finals pick was Lakers over Mavericks. So I was betting on Luka being better in the regular. Just having their role players together and whatnot.
Whoever wins that, here's what I'll say: whoever wins the Clippers Mavericks series is going to the conference finals.
Yeah. All right, Nuggets Blazers. I got Nuggets. I think Jokic is too much.
I'm picking the Blazers. the Blazers.
Wow, okay. I just think Jokic is too much. Dame, to me, I hate to because Dame is amazing. He's an incredible player. But Jokic, I think Jokic is probably a better all-time if we're just doing the all-time rankings. Do you disagree with that? It's tough to say that because Jokic is
let's
newer.
Not talk about all-time because all-time is a gift to consider accolades. So right now, no. Dame is actually higher than him. But here's what I'll say: who would I rather start my team with? Yes, I'd rather start.
That's my point.
Start my team.
Who
could do more with less? Jokic. Although I think, given the point guard position and what it's becoming for now it's a very scoring.
Dame gets buckets.
Doesn't say it's a scoring.
It's one-dimensional.
It's a scoring oriented position. I don't think that a lot of guys like Dame can get a lot out of teams that aren't that good. I think that Dame is one guy who can do that more than other guys. And I do think not having Jamal Murray is going to hurt. Because guess what? In the playoffs, gets to the end of the game. And Jokic, I think, is a very clutch player. And he defies, this idea of, you need a perimeter guy that can, get a bucket in the end of the game. He defies that. Last year, Murray was so great at that. And it's gonna be a big drop off this year for them. And I guess I'm betting on, Dame time. I'm betting that, Dame is going to, elevate.
Yeah.
And guess what? CJ McCollum, he might be the most underrated. I think I said this about Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton, these guys might be the most underrated players in the NBA.
They are they're not going to play defense, and to me, scoring plateaus, like Dame and CJ can only get so many buckets. To me, a team led by Jokic, I don't care who the rest of the dudes are, as long as they're solid, they're decent NBA guys. that team on any given night and against any of these playoff teams could win, like, they could win any game, is kind of what I'm saying. Like, the Dame, if they were going up against a lot of teams, I think they could get swept. And I just think we could
Dame
see,
will
I could
probably
see
have to
that.
average, like, Dame and CJ got to combine for, like,
70.
60, maybe.
Yeah,
Not
like
70.
60, 70.
I'd say average, like, say
Yeah.
Dame's, like, 34 and CJ's, like,
Yeah.
27 or something.
Okay, and then lastly, before we do our West picks, Jazz, Warriors, or the Grizzlies. I'm gonna talk against the Warriors.
Say Warriors.
I'm gonna talk against the
If
Warriors.
not.
I just think it would be incredibly fun. Everyone's gonna root for that series to go as long as it can, for Steph to have 51, in game 2, and to even the series 1-1, and then hopefully it's 2-2, and it'd be a really fun series. But I just think the Jazz, and now we can talk about the Jazz a little bit. Why I think, Alex, that would be actually a worse matchup for the Lakers than the Suns are. To me, they just have more dudes that have the potential to just get hot. Like, just get hot, and then now their equation beats you. They have that, all the three-point shooting, mixed with Rudy Gobert in the paint. Which, yes, we saw them in the regular season, and Ben Simmons and LeBron and Davis. Like, these dudes they're smart enough offensively to pull them out and to get buckets. Like, Ben Simmons had 42 that night, and he said, "Oh, he's the defensive player of the year." Well, I put 42 on him, which we're gonna talk about for our defensive player of the year conversation. But I just think Jazz, to me, they're too much of a... Of course, we've talked about them, comparing them to the 2014 Spurs. I'm not saying they're that because they don't have Popovich and Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, but they're the way the team is oriented, the three-point shooting, the very tough, the solid defense led by Rudy Gobert. I think that's a much tougher out, and I think the Warriors really don't stand a chance. I think it's going to be a 5-game series. Steph's going to get 1. It'll be electric. Maybe he can score 50 twice and get 2 from them. I just think their team top to bottom is just much too talented. Far too talented.
I agree with you, but I actually am going to give Steph 2 games because of how hot he is. I know that Utah plays great D, but here's something that I want to talk about, John.
How have we looked at Steph in the playoffs, though, Al? I don't know.
Dude, they got nothing to lose, though. It's not like there's pressure. I mean,
I'm not saying pressure. I'm just saying, game to game, night to night, playing for Steph,
right.
He's going to look... I think there's a couple nights he's going to look cold.
And I thought that maybe against the Lakers, too. There were stats about him... the Lakers was his lowest average of the season. Like, he never scored.
And he put up, 36?
37. 37. So I think that he's going to cook. I think that their defense is that... I guess Utah is going to really be able to just... If they're really moving the ball and they're really doing what they did best... But you know what I think about the playoffs, John? I think that sometimes it brings out different kinds of players and their egos show. And guess what? Donovan Mitchell is a guy who you probably feel slept on, and he's someone who, there's some stat, which I wish I knew off the top of my head, in games where he shoots over like 28 shots a game, or in that game or something, they always
I don't think it's 28, it's like over 20.
Maybe it might be 20, but I don't know, it can't be 20, that's pretty low. Anyway, so we're gonna see remember what he did last year? He carried them, he scored 57 in the game 1, he did all this, he was incredible, and he's going to try to be the hero. If he tries to be the hero, it's going to hurt the Jazz. And
I don't think he will.
When you compare that to a team that has Draymond and Wiggins, who are somehow playing very, very good defense, and then Curry actually can be the hero and can just carry his team.
Listen,
I think that
LeBron's not on the Jazz, so Wiggins is going to be... He's going to look like...
guess what?
He's going to look like
Draymond
Timberwolves.
against Bogdanovich...
No, I'm
Mitchell.
saying Wiggins is only motivated against LeBron.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, you're right. Okay. But anyway, so yeah, I think that's a 5 or 6 game series. But I would say Jazz and
okay,
6.
so the next series, I want to do this quickly. Jazz Clippers. You 100% picking the Clippers? I'd probably pick...
That's like a 6 game series.
So yeah, I'd pick Clippers too. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz won that game. Won that series.
Actually, I would.
I think they're being like... super underrated.
Yeah, they're slept
on. And I think they're gonna have that nobody believes in us, team vibe.
Good.
And
it comes down to Mitchell. If Mitchell's able to be extremely efficient and play within the system and get buckets, or is Mitchell gonna be no, I want to be the hero. I'm gonna take us there.
To me, it's Bogdanovich, Ingles, Clarkson, Conley, and Mitchell. All those dudes collectively getting buckets in their system, led by Rudy Gobert on the defensive side, and then Royce O'Neal doing as best as he can against guys like Kawhi and LeBron. And I think I wouldn't be shocked if they were in the conference finals because I think they're being now wildly underrated. But again, they are a 1 seed that is a bit of a all right. Well, you don't have LeBron.
Last point I want to make. We said this before. I said this before about We're going to see how much the regular season matters. Both the Jazz and the Suns, I think, are teams that benefited off of teams like the Clippers and the Lakers not having that great of regular seasons. And also, those teams are built for the regular season. I think we get into the playoffs, we're going to see, will teams be able to play Rudy Gobert off the court? And I know some like really smart basketball people say like, no, that's stupid. Like he's able to, he can play one-on-one defense too. Like he's able to drop back. He does all these things that like make him able to stay on the court. But we'll see offensively like how much he can bring with them and not spacing the floor. No, the rest of their guys are spacing, but I just think between Rudy Gobert, like we'll see like how effective can a guy like that really be deep in the playoffs, and just how good overall these Jazz and these Suns team. Now they're 1 and 2 seeds, but it's not the regular season anymore.
I don't know. I'm tempted to pick them over the Clippers. I really am. I'm just gonna. I hope for Kawhi and Paul George's sake that they do not lose in the second round to the Jazz
I want Lakers
and the
Clippers
Clippers.
in the
that would be so embarrassing. Yeah, and I want that as well. All right, so Alex, I talked about it before. Let's get to our West picks. I said again, I'm sticking with LeBron, and it's kind of for the reason, you look top to bottom, and like there's no, maybe if Kawhi and was leading a number 1 seeded team, I'd be on board, but because it's a Chris Paul led number 2 seeded team, it's a Donovan Mitchell led, it's like I'm looking at the stars, and it's like, do I believe in these stars? So you could make the case for the Clippers, but they're a 4 seed. They're when Kawhi and Paul George play, their record's like much better. They were like 30-10 or something like that when they play together. However, I have to stick with the Lakers, even though they're a 7 seed, even though they have no home court advantage. Like, people are underrating that, and I know that there's not as many fans in the stands. There's still fans. If you watched the game last night, there looked like there was a decent amount of fans in DC. Like they were loud enough.
Shouldn't fans, even though it's a small number, shouldn't that matter more now? We've gone a year with no fans, and now there are fans. Don't we think that actually does?
Okay, so you're just building up the legacy points for LeBron if he pulls it off.
That's not why I'm doing that. I actually think that everyone's like, oh, home court doesn't matter. I'm like, I think it does.
So I don't know.
Sleeping in your own bed too, like that's a factor.
No, so to finish off though, just my point, like, I'm just going to stick with LeBron and AD. They looked rusty against the Warriors. They worried me. I was like, okay, are we just going to say they're a lock against the Suns? Because look how bad they look in this first half. I hope that they're going to figure it out, that they're going to, like, it looked like Anthony Davis just was not shoot around. That's how bad and off his shots were. He looked horrible. And Schroeder as well. Who's not as much of a shooter. He's an offensive guy, but whatever. So I think looking at what LeBron's about to do, looking at this path, it's fun. It's really, like, if he takes on scoring title Steph Curry, like, top 3 MVP, he beat him in the play-in. Now they go to the CP3 and the 2-seeded Suns that were great all season. Everyone's picking the Lakers, of course, but that's still a pretty, like, people are,
that's a hard series.
Shouldn't be a given, and people are underrating that, and I think it's at least a 6-game series. Then he goes to play MVP Jokic, which, of course, no Jamal Murray. It's not like last year's Nuggets. But I think still, beating the MVP, that'll be a nice little notch on the belt. Yeah. And then you go for the LA battle versus Kawhi and Paul George, and they've been saying they want the Lakers all this time, and they get them in the conference finals. Maybe now we see that, and LeBron does that in the West. I think it's a pretty impressive feat. That's probably one of the better, because think about it. He's used to sweeping 4-0 the Pistons in the first round or the Pacers. And he's used to sweeping the Bucks from 2013. He's used to sweeping the first round. And the Raptors. He's used to sweeping first round. So this might be and he's ever played a play-in game before too. So this might be like the toughest conference battle. And now we're going up against one of the toughest opponents he's also had offensively if he gets KD, Kyrie, which of course I picked against. I think it's going to be the Sixers, who I think will be a better team, in the finals against the Lakers, because Ben Simmons you can put him on LeBron and just Joel Embiid in the paint as a better defensive team against the Lakers. But I still think if he goes up against Harden, KD, and Kyrie, I don't know. That's a pretty insane championship to give him his 5th championship, and now he's chasing Jordan. So he only needs one more to catch 6.
That's a good transition, John, to our finals pick. I'll say yes, I am going to pick the Lakers, keeping it short and sweet. I think that who's going to win the West, it's going to come down to 4 players. LeBron, Anthony Davis, Kawhi, and Paul George. That's really what I think. Based on how those guys play in the playoffs, do they elevate? Do we see 2019 Kawhi when he carried the Raptors to the title? Do we see, a 2020 Anthony Davis? Do we see a 2018 LeBron? Like, which version of these guys? And Paul George, too. there's been 2 Paul Georges this season. He started off and he was shooting, he was blistering hot. He was hot, and then he got kind of cold for a while. Everyone was questioning everything about the Clippers, and then he got hot again. So I think it's like, which version of those guys are we seeing? And those teams, No. So it comes down to that.
That's a fine way of saying it, too, because I think what you're acknowledging there is, like, those 2 teams have the highest ceiling in the West. If those 4 guys underperform, if Davis underperform, I mean, we probably assume LeBron's there. Hopefully he doesn't get injured.
Exactly.
If all those guys are not injured and they're like playing at their best, we know they're there. If they play less than their best, then maybe Luka has a shot in the first round. Maybe the Suns could, take off the Lakers if LeBron and AD aren't healthy. And maybe the Jazz have a shot at going to the finals, which there's so many funny finals iterations. Like, Bucks, Jazz, or
Bucks, Suns. I threw $5 on Bucks, Suns.
Or Suns.
It's like $5 to win.
Suns, Sixers. Like, how funny would Suns, Sixers be? Like,
that'd be wild.
So yeah.
But so transitioning, John, to our finals picks, I think you kind of just laid out the case for LeBron, and something that I saw the other day on Get Up, ESPN show. Barkley said, if LeBron wins this title, we're going to have a serious conversation about the greatest of all time. Stephen A, completely dismissing it, which is funny because I feel like he actually probably said something similar, like, oh, if LeBron wins this one. Like,
he said it before. He said, I might have to bow down to the GOAT.
Yeah, he says,
or to the king.
I'm going to have to bow to the king.
I'm going to have to bow to the king.
But now, he says the opposite. And here's kind of what he did. He just dismissed the path that you just laid out. He said, the Suns are, they're good, but they're a young team. The Nuggets are missing Jamal Murray. The Blazers are a very guard-oriented team, not that great defensively. The Clippers, their load management, and they, choked last year. They have never been to the Western Conference Finals in their franchise history. The Warriors obviously don't have Clay. The Jazz got bounced in the first round last year, choked that 3-1 lead.
Yeah, they're also young.
And the Nets, he said, don't play defense, and their big three's only played 8 games together. And so here's what I think, Sean.
All right, LeBron, you have to win it, and if you don't, I
Yeah.
can't believe you lost to one of those garbage teams. That's basically what.
But here's what I think, Sean. I think in a normal year, this is what we have. Every team, you can see how they would lose. You can see their flaw.
Yeah.
In past years, last year, for example, the Lakers, I can't really see the Lakers losing.
You can say the same thing about the Lakers, though. If you were extending that out to a different team, the Lakers, they haven't played together.
Exactly.
Yeah, they had injury. They're a 7 seed. They don't have home court.
But that's why it's fun this year. That's why this year, more than ever, I feel like the first round matchups, I could see, there's...
The West.
Either team.
The West particularly.
But even the East, Bucks... Bucks,
Heat.
Other than Nets and Sixers, so Bucks, Heat, and even in Hawks and.
But the Hawks and Knicks, none of those teams are on the level of these Western teams.
I agree. But I'm just saying. So a lot of these series are to me kind of coin flips. I don't really have an answer, but I think, Sean, this is something you said in one of our group texts. If LeBron wins this title, that means in the last year he will have beaten Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, Jimmy and Bam. He would also have beaten Chris Paul.
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, if we want to count that. Chris Paul.
Jokic again.
Then
Harden.
or Dame again, whichever one. Then
Kawhi and Paul
George. James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
That's
in 2 seasons.
Who are we missing? In 2 seasons, who are we
That's
missing?
everybody.
Giannis. He wouldn't have beaten Giannis.
Giannis and Embiid.
Giannis and
the Sixers.
And and everyone said,
but he could. If those guys get there, he'll play.
And this will really be indicative because it's every year is an excuse. Last year, they were in the bubble. It was the Mickey Mouse Championship. This year, and it's he's in the West. He is in the West. The West is tough. And something Chris Paul said, they talked about him having to play LeBron in the first round. He said, "I've been in the West my whole career." LeBron hasn't been in the West his whole career.
Wait, CP3 said that?
I've been in the West my whole career. Don't try to say, this team is going to be extra hard to beat as a 7 seed, this, that. And he was basically, because that's what they were saying. You're going to have to play LeBron in the first round. He said, listen, I've been in the West my whole career. The West has never been easy. And LeBron hasn't been in the West his whole career. So now, last year...
to also do it at age 36, and I think the argument, that all the geezers are going to say, he has Anthony Davis. No other teams have that. Yes, that's true, but let's see who leads the team. Is Davis the Pippen, or is he going to be the Finals MVP this year?
Yeah,
because he's a good enough player to have a good series in the Finals, and maybe he gets that. But I think it's LeBron. It's easily LeBron, and AD is his Pippen, and I think it's fine.
It's such a hard... That's why I'm really having a hard time picking, because I'm looking at all the teams, and I do see all of their glaring weaknesses.
Every team has a huge flaw.
They have all these glaring weaknesses... literally every team.
Is that why you like the Bucks? Because they look you erased the last 2 seasons. They look like the safest pick. They have a star. They have good defense. They have good offense. They have the number 2 guy in Jrue Holiday.
There's a few reasons. I really think that Giannis, I do think this is the year where Giannis he's good. I think he's good at the level of player where this year will be different. And I really think that he's honestly, at this point, maybe a little underrated. The fact that he wasn't even really considered for MVP. That's neither here nor there. So I think that I do think they are safe. They have some more continuity than some of these other teams, and I also don't really. I think I'm also emotionally don't want to pick the Nets, but I think so. That's why I'm picking the Bucks. So I'm gonna go Lakers over Bucks in the finals, John. Even though the Lakers are a 7 seed, it just seems so crazy.
7 seed. They're not gonna have home court the entire time.
Yeah. And we're just like, oh, it doesn't matter. They're playing the Suns. They're playing. Everyone's like, no. If LeBron doesn't win, they're favored right now to win this series. Like, and we'll see.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Let's take the last 8-10 minutes. Run through the awards. They were just released yesterday, the top 3 for each. So
John, MVP, we got Jokic, Embiid, Steph Curry.
It's Jokic, and it's not close actually. And I've been defending Embiid a lot this season, making the argument for him. Which to me, it was more about seeing where the voters would do, because I think the voters value this. What was the most, Westbrook's triple doubles, which Westbrook also had a high PER, and I think people kind of look back on that and poo-poo it, which I actually think it was. I still think it was a legitimate MVP season. 30, 10, and 10 will probably never happen again. And that was a legitimate MVP season, even though there was 6 seed and they got bounced in the playoffs. But I think, similarly, Jokic, I thought people were similarly going to be like, oh, Embiid averaging the most points for a center since Shaq. He's a 30-point per game scorer at the center position. We haven't seen that, whatever. But actually, it's Jokic. And the reason is, his 2021 season is a Pantheon level season. So just to go by the numbers, his 2021 PER, or player efficiency rating, it ranks 10th all time. And if you go since 1965, which basically what this does is remove a bunch of wilt seasons. If you go from 1965, this is a list of players who have a better single season PER than 2021 Jokic. Jordan did it twice. LeBron did it twice. Giannis in 2020 last season. And Steph Curry in 2016. That's it.
That's ridiculous.
So it's just the 4 of the, or I guess 8 technically, or no, it was that 4? And it's 6 of the best single seasons ever by the 2 GOATs, by Curry and by Giannis. So I think, and then the list would be Giannis, MJ, LeBron, Curry, and then Jokic is 7th since 1965. Yeah. So, and then if you add the 3 Wilt seasons, then he's 10th all time. So to me, it's just this season alone is that's not going to be in the history books written that way if he's not the MVP. So I think it's very simple. He's the MVP.
He's the MVP, you're right. And I think that when I knew for sure he's the MVP was when Jamal Murray goes down and they go 9-1 the next 10 games.
Ridiculous.
It was absurd. And that's what he does so well. And it's that just him. He is very similar to LeBron in this way, that you put him on a team and it doesn't matter if the teammates, yes, it does matter. However, he'll get the most out of them than almost anyone else will. So
it seems Porter Jr. kind of just slotted right in for Murray, and they're not missing Murray too much. So yeah.
Okay,
all right,
John.
Defensive player of the year. You got Al.
Gobert, Simmons, Draymond. Guess what? I don't care. Okay, I don't care who wins it. It's probably gonna be Gobert just because they're gonna give it to him for the Jazz.
The third straight season.
Okay,
too.
So stupid. Okay, Bam should be on that list. Okay, I know that we had a bad season. And I know that, Draymond, and that's the thing. It's all these sexy names. Bam Adebayo.
Draymond just felt like that's what they were doing.
He's the best defender in the league. He's already told D Wade and Shaq. He does everything on D. He does. Look at the 20. This is something on Twitter I saw, so take it for what you will. But I actually believe this. This is Bam against the 2021 All-Stars this year. They shot 36%, 67 for 184. Against Rudy Gobert, they shot 48%. Against Ben Simmons, they shot 48%. Against Draymond, they shot 47%. Against Bam, 36%, okay? So they've all were below 50%, but the Bam was even 10 to 12 percentage points lower. When Bam, I knew this, John, 3 years ago, when we watched the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant come to Miami, and I think this was the year that Deion Waiters hit a game winner against. It might have been 2017, I think, the first year.
2017, yeah.
And Bam switched on to Curry. And Curry did what everyone does when they get a big onto them, I'm going to dance, I'm going to just... And Bam locked him down. I was like, okay, Bam
kept those hips low.
Bam is different.
Kept those hips low
and he's only... He gets so low, I love it. And he's only improved since then. So, screw Gobert, screw Simmons, screw Draymond. Bam's the defensive player of the year.
All right, I'm okay with that, but just to give the real answer, I think it's going to be Gobert. Gobert had... and Simmons was second, but Gobert had the highest single-player defensive rating. And I'm with you. And Alex, at the end of the day, I care more about a championship than my player getting a single player award.
Yeah,
I would love to see it.
He needs to get his recognition.
I would love to see it, but you know what? Use that fuel. I hope.
Good, yeah.
I hope now Jimmy is they didn't even think you were good enough. And he's like just sparking Bam up, and now Bam's like ready to just destroy Giannis.
Coach of the year, Johnny. Who you got for
Coach of the year? People I feel like are kind of saying like run away from Monty Williams. I think it's very close. I'm kind of okay with anyone winning it. My pick would be Tom Thibodeau, because if you look at how much above they performed from the preseason, like I think it was probably Vegas's like guess for everyone's preseason, they wildly overperformed. Everyone thought the Knicks were just gonna be classic Knicks from the past few years, garbage. No one thought they'd be that great. They are the and if you're listening now, go to @Barstool Sportsbook on Instagram. They posted this graphic like a couple weeks ago, or was it? It was probably a couple weeks ago, and it must have been 1 week ago when the season ended, basically. But it was showing the teams that have most wildly overperformed and underperformed. The Rockets, of course.
So the wins as percent of Vegas win total.
So as a percent, the Knicks were 186% over what their win total was.
And then second.
The Suns were second.
The Suns. So
that does shock me.
usually...
And third was the Jazz. But that does shock me, the Suns, because I thought the Suns were going to be better than the Jazz. They had Chris Paul. You know, they were the 8-0 bubble Suns. They got a new coach.
Maybe you should give it to Quinn Snyder then.
So my argument for Quinn Snyder is, look at what they did coming in. Like, no one thought they'd be this good, and was like, holy crap. Like, the Jazz are 20-1 in their last, 21 games. Not only that, they were 21 against the spread. So Vegas was saying, they're worth their 8-point favorites. They were outperforming every single night. So it's kind of and then they lost the Nuggets one night. It was like they were ridiculously hot.
Well, the Knicks had something similar too. So
and I just think and the Knicks were similar. So to me, Thibodeau is what it is, because they were wildly overperformed from being one of the worst teams to now one of the best in the East. Whereas the Jazz were like a playoff team to the number one team in the league. I just think Quinn Snyder, I can't believe people are writing him off, and I think it's because we've been talking about how good the Jazz have been all season long, and it's like, that was from that was from January, February. It's not as
they're old news. They're retired.
They're old news, and now the Suns climbed up they got to the 1 seed for a second, and now they're the 2 seed.
Well, I mean, it was impressive because the Suns, even at the start of the season, they weren't that high. But I'm gonna stick with my preseason pick, which was Monty Williams. I hope he gets it, and I actually think he will get it, John. I think if I had to pick who, I would probably go with. If I wasn't gonna pick Mitt Williams, I would probably pick Tibbs because.
But is that who you'd vote for? Or is that who you think the media is going to vote for? Because that's who I give my vote for.
I would vote. I'm just sticking with my preseason pick of Monty Williams. I'd probably vote for Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, I would too.
And, I can't.
But I think Monty Williams is going to get it.
And Quinn Snyder and Thibodeau are both guys very, very respected in the league and probably pretty well liked, I would say. But Monty Williams might be the most likable guy. I feel like everyone loves Monty Williams. Everyone has great things to say about him. So I think that might be honestly an emotional bias that people are going to have. Yeah. And they're going to bet for Monty Williams.
All right, 6-man.
Vote for him.
6-man, I'm also going to stick with. This was the one preseason pick I had right. I had Giannis winning the MVP. I had Tyler Hero as most improved. Mine was whack, but 6-man, I think I had it right. Jordan Clarkson. Just looking at that Jazz team, he was one of the number one dudes off that I saw as a guy on the bench. I think, and Joe Ingles is also in there, and Derrick Rose as well. People, low-key, Joe Ingles made a run towards the end of this season, but I'm going to stick with Jordan Clarkson so that my preseason pick was right.
Yeah, I also think Jordan Clarkson will get it. I might go with Joe Ingles just because he's been more efficient towards the end. Jordan Clarkson started really, really, really hot, and then he kind of, towards the end of the year, still getting buckets, but kind of teetered off a little bit. Joe Ingles, I think, is more valuable to that team, in my opinion, which it's not, a valuable award. It's just 6-man of the year.
Yeah, I mean, the fun pick is Derrick Rose.
But I wish, I kind of
Derrick Rose being a 6-man of the year
and
MVP, the same as James Harden, and the same actually as. This one is more similar to Bill Walton, who was first an MVP and then a 6-man.
And then through all his injuries ends up being off the bench.
So the Bill Walton, Derrick Rose 6-man of the year. That would also be
So I would love to see Derrick Rose get it.
And then most improved, clearly Julius Randle on the Knicks, right? I don't think there's any debate
I really
there.
don't. That's one I think there should be no debate. The fact that the other two guys are Jeremy Grant, who's on a lottery team.
Yeah.
And did he improve? Absolutely. And then, Michael Porter Jr., no. Those are just two guys. They had to put two other names. It's going to be Julius Randle. There's not even a discussion.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up. I had Lakers over Sixers. That was my preseason pick. I'm sticking with that for these playoffs.
Who's Finals MVP?
Finals MVP? I mean, I'm just not picking against LeBron for this fifth championship, fifth Finals MVP. I think it's going to be him again. We'll see. If they don't, it wouldn't be shocking. I guess everyone's going to say it. Oh my God, LeBron got bounced by the Clippers or by the Suns. But this is a no home court advantage. And actually, the Clippers, forget that. The Clippers, they'll have home court because it'll be in LA. But
that's true.
I don't know. The Suns, that's the toughest first round opponent for LeBron James team ever.
Well, he's never been bounced in the first round.
And he's never lost in the first round?
Yeah, so that's actually another huge thing.
All right, yeah, we can ride that trend. The Lakers over Sixers.
And it's funny, John, I'm also Lakers over Bucks, and that's something that, like, both of our preseason picks aren't completely outlandish 6 months later. Or whatever.
Yeah.
So, good for us. Thank you for all for listening. Have a good one. Peace out.
Go Heat!